Can you elaborate a little bit more about the abandoned Biden campaign
Yeah.
for the 2024 election? Should Muslims be voting for Trump or Biden?
Well, they shouldn't be voting for Biden, and that's a very important corrective that I'm giving to the way you framed it, because it's not just Trump or Biden. It's really, are we going to teach the Democratic Party and Joe Biden in particular? Are we going to teach them that you can murder 30,000 of our brothers and sisters in cold blood and get away with it, or not? Is that a red line for us or not? That's basically what's at stake in November. And we would be cowards, to be frank. We would be cowards if we basically say, no, that's not a red line. I'll vote for you because I'm afraid of Trump, or I'll vote for you because I'm afraid of Haley or DeSantis or anybody else. This is just a principled decision that has to be taken, right? Now, the people who have crunched the numbers, the data analysts and the political scientists and things like that, have crunched the numbers and said that there's enough of a potential Muslim vote in the swing states, right? The Pennsylvania and Michigan and Minnesota and other places. There's enough of a Muslim voting population to swing the election. And again, swinging an election doesn't mean that we get to choose who wins it, but it does mean that we can make someone lose it. And the idea is, by delivering a loss to Biden, that we will have achieved two major things, okay? First of all, we will have built a collective will to act collectively and vote as a bloc as Muslims, which right now the Democratic Party is banking on us not being able to do. The reason why Biden is bombing Yemen right now and defending the genocide is that he is banking on us not being able to get our act together and organize and vote as a bloc, okay? So if we're able to deliver a loss to Biden, we prove to every politician in the United States, we can take you out of power. We can remove you from office if you cross us. And this has been done at the local level. We're talking with many of the brothers, some from Staten Island and other people who have already done this at the local level, right? Where they helped get somebody in, and then that person crossed the line, either with Zionism or something else, and they took them right out, right? If you do that, you send a message to everybody. Now everybody's calculus changes. Whoever gets involved gets elected next, whether it's Trump or DeSantis, or even if, like, in a long shot, if the Democratic Party changes for the primaries and dumps Biden and goes for somebody else. Everybody now knows that, hey, there's some stuff that you can't do to the Muslim community. That if you cross this line, you're going to be one term. That has to happen. We have to organize so that we have that power and that we can deploy that power. And if we can deploy that power once in November against Biden, that means we can deploy it again and again and again after that, right? So that's the strategy. And that's why the question is not who's going to win or who to vote for. The question is, or I guess the imperative is, just don't vote for Biden.
You've said that power is not the corrupter of our world today, but instead a moral failing is. What moral failures have Muslims committed that may have led to where we are today?
Okay, and this is why the conversation has to be about us here in the United States. Like, because again, we're not going to sit here and pass judgment on Palestinians in Palestine for anything that they've done. We've failed them. We've failed them, to be frank. How have we failed them? We failed them because we love the dunya too much. And that's our moral failing, principally, right? And the Prophet ﷺ told us. He says there's going to come a day where you're content with zara and you're following the tails of cattle, etc., and you abandon things. And what's the punishment? Allah will cause people to come and rule over you. And you'll be humiliated, right? We have, right here, we're in Dallas. We've got our big masajid. We've got our big chandeliers. We've got our comfortable lives. We've got our suburban whatever. My daughter, my son's a lawyer, doctor, engineer. Alhamdulillah, look at that. We're the top 1% of the world, right? When it comes to wealth. That's comfort. And that's obviously not all of us. The American community is diverse. We've got inner city, we've got other communities. We're not neglecting that. But let's look at if there's a moral failing here. We got too comfortable. And we got lulled into a stupor or a sleep so that look at all of the organization and lobbying and money and capacity that the Zionist movement has been able to generate. And what have we done? We're asleep at the wheel, right? That created the conditions in which this genocide could happen. If after 9/11 or before 9/11 or whatever, if the Muslim community was like, you know what? We're going to try to build political power, grassroots, ground up, like the proper way that it should have been done, so that 20 years later, this sort of thing couldn't happen, right? That would have been amazing. It didn't happen. So now we have the next 20 years. Okay, let's learn from the past. And I think that we are, actually, because there's a difference now compared to after 9/11, where we have to learn and be like, this can never happen again. Never happen again to our Muslim brothers and sisters, especially the Palestinians, but all of our Muslim brothers and sisters, that the Muslims living in the United States have a specific responsibility. They're more responsible than any other Muslim in the world, because the United States is the largest supplier of weapons and arms in the world, and because it basically calls the shots on the foreign policy scene and the international arena, that we have to figure out how to build the political power to stop these things from happening, right? And the moral failing that has prevented us from doing that is hubb ad-dunya wa karahiyat al-maut, is loving the world too much and getting too comfortable with it.
Yeah. And what would you say, when I had on Omar Nassimi, he said, let me ask you the question first, which is, what can Muslims do? And I like that you said within 20 years, because it's long term. It has to be. What do American Muslims have to do for the next 20, 30, 50 years to ensure that this never happens again?
There's a million things that we could be doing. There's so much. Actually, it's staggering how much there is to do.
Do you have a top three?
Yeah, well, I'll give some ideas that I've been thinking about, and I've spent a lot of time this weekend with Mubin. He was with me at the Amal sort of conference and stuff like that. So we've been talking a lot. One of our mistakes, or a part of our political naivety, is that we think that this is just like a comic book. Like there's heroes and villains, and we just are waiting for our hero, and we can just cheer them on, and then they'll go take care of everything. That's not the way it works, right? Political power is built long-term, slowly, ground up, block by block. You can't build the roof before you build the foundation, right? So it's not going to do us anything to throw somebody up to the level of Congress, for example, okay? You know how these campaigns get funded. If you're at the level of Congress and you're a Muslim, you're not accountable to the Muslims. You're accountable to the DNC. The DNC did your fundraising for you. The Muslims didn't do their fundraising for you, right? So then when it comes to these sorts of issues, who are they going to choose? They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them, ever, right? So we're a long way away, but we can start locally, right? Listen, there's some environmental organizations that I donate to, or I'm a part of or a member of, right? Every year, I get a report card about the local representatives, the elected officials, and how they voted on environmental issues. A whole thing. They're not telling me who to vote for, but you know who to vote for. And like the guys who are really anti-environment, like red text and stuff like that. And it's like, that's easy stuff that we can be doing, right? Like voter education, voter turnout, right? I criticize, and I've said this, and I'll say this on every platform I get a chance to, the idea of the lesser of two evils. Lesser of two evils is useless if you don't have a long-term strategy. You can't tell me it's election year, we're going to pick the lesser of two evils, and then you do nothing for 4 years, and then you have to pick the lesser of two evils again. What's to say they're not going to be more evil than the two that you picked from 4 years ago, right? Let's say you're in a situation where you have to, you exercise your judgment. You say, okay, well, neither of these two are perfect, but I'm going to go lesser of two evils, whatever I deem that to be. The very next day after the election, you got to start working to make sure that the next election, the two people that you have to choose from are observably better than the two that you chose from before. We're not doing that work right now, right? So when it comes to grooming potential, people to run, a lot of people just need to be told to run. It's like, hey, look, this person, they're either from our community or they have the right priorities or the right values, right? Not just token, identity stuff, that they have the right values, whether it's a school board, whether it's a city council, start small and be like, hey, we're going to fund your campaign. We can contribute this much, or we'll fundraise for you. We'll take care of flyers, phone banking, emails, voter education, whatever, if you run. Okay? It's from the Sunnah to not seek power. Okay? So we should be going out, finding the people, and then telling them, hey, it's like, you're the guy. You're going to, like, for this position, it's like, we're going to put you behind you. No, I don't really want to. I never really thought about it. No. You're going to be the guy. Right? And some people have done this on the local level, and it works. Right? So this is the sort of stuff, just like a drop in the bucket, that we have to start doing. Like, if you're able to start making a difference on city councils, okay, and school boards. Before LGBTQ curriculum, who was paying attention to school boards? Nobody. So everybody who was already there, with their hand on the wheel, now all of a sudden look at the power that they have, right? That's our own dropped opportunity. We could have been putting people in school boards so that this wasn't ever even an issue, but we didn't. And so we got burnt. We're always like reacting and on the back heel. So this is what it's going to take. It's going to take, actually a systematic, we're going to have people, they don't always have to be Muslim. We can't get tricked by identity politics. There are plenty of sellouts in the Muslim community, but people who are vetted, people who have our values or share our values, that we're going to go through the march, the long march. We're going to go district by district, county level, city level, whatever, school, etc. And we're going to start building a groundswell movement, right? A grassroots movement of political power. Economic power. Do we have to go, Mohammed? We have to go. All right. Economic power is part of that. Where you spend your money, okay? I don't care, but if Walmart's on the BDS list or not, stop buying at Walmart. Go buy from your Muslim brother or sister. Keep the money in the community. Malcolm X wrote a lot about this, right? We like to all, celebrate him, etc. But we don't follow what he said to do, okay? Keep your money within the local mom and pop shops that is run by the aunties and the uncles, right? Have a hub of, where, somebody said it like this. We need Muslims doing everything. We need Muslims making shoes, making clothing. We need Muslims, in food production. We need Muslims in
media.
Oh my God! Coming with.
Well, can I ask you this,
sure.
Mohammed? How much time, by the way? I have 2 more questions.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So I got 2 more questions. You could take however much time you want.
I'll be short.
What do you think of an American Muslim lobby to rival AIPAC?
I think that, okay, so lobby is one thing, but then there's political action committees and super PACs, which is another thing, which is similar, okay? I definitely think that Muslims should be getting into political action committees and super PACs. Lobbying, there's going to be some lobbying. That's not a problem. But we don't have to just be like AIPAC, because here's why, okay? Zionism is built on lies, and Islam is built on the truth, right? So Zionism requires targeted pressure and essentially bribery applied to the powerful individuals, the right levers to pull in order for it to work.
Maybe even a little bit of blackmail too, huh?
Epstein's list, right? Exactly. In order for it to work, we have the truth on our side. Okay, we don't have to resort to the same sorts of tactics, which is why I believe that Islamic advocacy would be much more grassroots than AIPAC lobby, right? It's like, but yes, that level of savvy and organization, take the things that work and make sense and agree with our ethics and leave the things that don't, right? Obviously, we're not going to blackmail anybody, right? But, when it comes to that level of coordination, right? Power is coordinated action. Yes, when it comes to being able to mobilize quickly, to flood inboxes and voicemail boxes and stuff like that quickly. Yes, 100%. Like, we need to develop that capacity, but it should be easier for us because we have the truth on our side. We're not going to have to raise the same amount of money. We're not going to have to bribe or resort to the same dirty tricks that they do because we have the truth on our side, and that will make people more sympathetic.